Or someone's come in and they've had a condition, back, concussion, whatever you want, and that you have rehabilitated them, and tell me how you've done it.
Well, you see a lot of people coming with sciatica that's not resolving. And yet you look at MRIs and they don't have herniated disc or compressed spinal nerves. So you're looking at something.
They don't have it?
That don't. Right. I mean, that's really what functional medicine, functional neurology looks at, are people who have problems that look like things that they end up not being when you do all the examination, when you do all the imaging.
So you do an MRI and like literally
it's clean.
It's clean. There's nothing there.
But they still have pain radiating down the limb from the butt. I mean, that can be a sacroiliac issue with a lot of instability around the sacroiliac. And that can just be a pure muscle weakness because they injured it doing something suddenly. But if it's something that came on gradually where they didn't have a provocative incident, then you have to look at the possibilities that this is something where this tone was getting bad for a long time and what's wrong there. And then usually you find it in the spinal cerebellum. And so to rehabilitate those people, I use balance pads, which are foam pads that they stand on, and try to get them to stand steady on them while we may do eye exercises or complex movements with a limb to try to increase blood flow to that area of the cerebellum and activation and coordination of all those reflexes for their stability in space so that they start to actually get coordinated movement, coordinated contraction of the muscles around that joint.
Welcome, everyone, to the Whole Truth Podcast with John Levine, sponsored by Dean's Natural Food Markets with 4 locations in Shrewsbury, Ocean, Basking Ridge, and Chester. My guest today is Dr. Kevin Parks, who is a board-certified chiropractic neurologist, a member of the ACA Council on Neurology, and secretary of the NJCS Council on Neurology. Dr. Parks, nice to finally meet you. How are you today?
Very well, John. Nice to meet you.
We have a mutual friend, Dr. Vera Gupta, who raves about you, and we had her on the podcast, and she said, "You've got to talk to Dr. Kevin Parks." And she pushed me, and then I called you up, and we talked, and he told me something about functional neurology, and I had to look it up, and I'm like, I have got to get this guy on to talk about his expertise. Functional neurology. So my first question for you, what's the difference between conventional chiropractic and chiropractic neurology?
Well, chiropractic neurology developed out of postgraduate programs to specialize in neurology. Initially, it focused on segmental cord reflexes, looking at how we could influence pain, influence muscle tone by using reflexes that we knew from neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, that could change entrapment syndromes like carpal tunnel thoracic outlet syndrome by changing the muscle tone of the muscles that are causing contraction, causing flexion, causing compression of the neurovascular aspects to limbs, to hands, and by using the core reflexes to change the muscle tone, to lengthen the muscles, and also to modulate pain. So it started very, very cord-based, and then as research continued, people started to incorporate what we knew more about brain and regions of the brain and how those areas controlled muscle tone, movement, vascular flow, to try to change and modulate what was going on down below. So it kind of gradually developed through the early 90s.
Okay.
And as more and more research came in, they started to incorporate more and more in treatment modalities. And as we learned more and more, it became more involved. For instance, looking at cerebellar aspects, which is the cerebellum is the part of the brain that controls your coordinated movements, your postural muscle tone, your balance, your equilibrium, and different parts of the cerebellum control different aspects of it. And because as chiropractors we do a lot with the spine, there's a big part of it, the spinal cerebellum, that controls muscle tone of your spinal musculature and legs. And the feedback from the muscle spindles in your legs and spinal musculature and the inner ear and the eyes all influence how the cerebellum functions and then provides feedback to the muscles to contract them to hold you steadily in gravity.
So in layman's terms, reprogramming the brain by stimulating parts of the body and kind of reconnecting things to work together?
In a sense, yes.
In a sense?
Yeah, using external stimuli that affect very specific regions to try to influence the output of that system.
So something's off with the brain, something's off with the body, and I believe that we're all connected, which is why it's the whole truth, and we're putting it back together.
Pretty much, yeah. And things don't get disconnected necessarily when you're looking at it this way, but things get used more. Infections affect the output of a system.
Right.
Blood glucose levels affect the output. Autoimmunity affects the output. So all those things factor into causing damage or causing damage to neurons so that it doesn't function as it used to. So you have to rehabilitate it just like you rehabilitate muscles that are injured.
This is really cool stuff. Give me a couple case scenarios. I know you're a pretty humble guy, but I'm going to have to pull it out of you, okay? So I want 2 case scenarios where someone's come in with... So wait, what do you deal with? You deal with CTE, concussions, brain...
CTE is really end-stage stuff. So no, I don't deal with CTE.
You don't, okay.
I deal with concussions.
Concussions, okay.
Yes.
What other conditions do you deal with?
Well, I deal with basically the normal conditions that you think of a chiropractor for.
Okay.
Cervical injuries, low back pain, sciatica, radiating symptoms down an arm or a leg. But I might look at it a little bit differently than conventionally in chiropractic, where I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at the mechanics of the joints, and I'm looking at the tone of the muscles that are around those joints, but I'm looking at how the areas of the brain, cerebellum, motor cortex, all affect the function of that system, and I'm looking to see if there's deficits there through the physical and neurologic exam to see if there's ways that I can influence that.
Gotcha. So I understand the difference. So, all right, the 2 case scenarios that you can think of where someone's come in and they've had a condition, back, concussion, whatever you want, and that you have rehabilitated them, and tell me how you've done it.
Well, you see a lot of people coming with sciatica that's not resolving. And yet you look at MRIs and they don't have herniated disc or compressed spinal nerves. So you're looking at something.
They don't have it?
That don't. Right. I mean, that's really what functional medicine, functional neurology looks at, are people who have problems that look like things that they end up not being when you do all the examination, when you do all the imaging.
So you do an MRI and like literally
it's clean.
It's clean. There's nothing there.
But they still have pain radiating down the limb from the butt. I mean, that can be a sacroiliac issue with a lot of instability around the sacroiliac. And that can just be a pure muscle weakness because they injured it doing something suddenly. But if it's something that came on gradually where they didn't have a provocative incident, then you have to look at the possibilities that this is something where this tone was getting bad for a long time and what's wrong there. And then usually you find it in the spinal cerebellum. And so to rehabilitate those people, I use balance pads, which are foam pads that they stand on, and try to get them to stand steady on them while we may do eye exercises or complex movements with a limb to try to increase blood flow to that area of the cerebellum and activation and coordination of all those reflexes for their stability in space so that they start to actually get coordinated movement, coordinated contraction of the muscles around that joint.
That's
in
cool.
addition to standard exercises. Core exercises are really big for spinal cerebellar rehabilitation.
Does this have something to do with the Bates method?
I have no idea what that is.
Because I had someone on, Jenny Zenner, who had concussions, and she went to a million doctors, and she finally went and did the Bates method, which is eye movement exercises.
Okay.
They're eye exercises.
Yeah, well, eye movement therapy is big, and
that's what it is.
Chiropractic neurology, yeah. I mean, but that eye movement therapy is not unusual to physical therapy, vestibular rehabilitation.
Right.
I mean, that's what a lot of this work came from. Is physical therapy research.
So it's connected.
Yeah. I mean, basically we steal from everybody.
Yeah, and you should. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. And also she just because when I thought about this, I thought about her, and she also did neurofeedback.
That's valuable in a lot of cases, absolutely.
And she's great. I mean, she was on about a month ago, and thanks to those 2 methods, she swears by it. Mm-hmm. And she is good to go.
Well, I can see that. I mean, that's a post-concussion?
Yeah, she had she had a concussion when she was younger.
Okay.
She had and like 2 back-to-back. concussions. Her kids jumped on her after a sporting event. And
Okay.
she was really not doing well. She had concussions and just huge headaches and you name it.
Well, the reason why vestibular therapy is so helpful in concussion patients is when we get a concussion, the brain actually twists slightly on the brainstem. So the fibers
It
that are
actually
in the-
tw-
it
yeah, 'cause
twists
so
because
it-
it's banging around inside your skull.
Yeah.
So as it's doing that, it's twerking the brainstem, and the center, the neurons that are in the center of the brainstem are the vestibular nuclei, which are the relays for information coming from your cerebellum, going up to the muscles that move your eyes, and going down to the spinal musculature.
Right.
So when that gets twisted, it causes compressive damage. And so you need to rehabilitate that system in order to get the patient back to normal. And that's why vestibular rehab, eye movement therapy is so important and successful in that.
Right.
But there may be other components that are involved as well with neuroinflammation because you have too many inflammatory cytokines. You get microglial priming. The microglia are the cells that cause CTE. When they get turned on too much and continuously, they start to scavenge up. These are the immune cells in your brain, and their job is to scavenge up the debris. The problem is that as they get too aggressive, so if you have one concussion, they're supposed to be on for about 2 weeks.
But I got to back you up there
Go ahead.
because you're smarter than I am. So you got to slow down because
Okay.
I'm trying to take this in. Say that one more time so I can understand this a little bit more.
Okay. So if you have a concussion,
Yes.
one of the things that happens is there's the immune cells in your brain, the microglial cells, will turn on for 2 weeks, and their job is to scavenge up the debris, the cells that have been damaged. Any
Gotcha.
cell that's running too fast or too slow gets gobbled up, and any end products, any metabolic products of the cell that have spilled out as a result of the damage gets taken up. So that doesn't. Otherwise, it stays in that environment and it's toxic and it causes inflammation.
Okay.
And it will cause problems. Inflammation causes oxidative stress, which damages the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the parts of the neurons and parts of any cell that produce energy. When you damage the parts that produce energy, you cause problems with all those energy requiring systems, like the pumps that regulate the cell so it can fire again, like a neuron that needs to fire again, like the expression of the DNA, like the plugs, the gates that keep the cell from turning on excessively. So if you break that down, you're going to have a cell that fires excessively until it burns out.
Okay.
And so it does damage. It's called excitotoxicity. So the microglial cells help to get all that garbage out of there and to kill any and to gobble up any of the cells that are running too fast or the ones that are damaged and running too slow. So that only the healthy cells remain.
Gotcha.
They're supposed to stay on for 2 weeks after the injury.
Okay.
Okay, then it turns off. It's automatic. If you get another concussion in that time, they may stay on for 4 weeks or for a few months.
It's exasperated.
Yeah, it triggers a greater response.
Right.
But if you continue to have multiple concussions, they can get primed so that they stay on all the time, considering that this is now the normal state. But when they stay on all the time,
Yeah.
it starts to gobble up so many neurons that you start to see damage within the brain, and that's where it turns to like Swiss cheese, and that's CTE.
Okay, so multiple concussions and
Multiple concussions.
Okay.
That's why it's really not good to have multiple head injuries, and it's not good to return until a head injury is resolved
Right.
to a contact sport.
So, what's an example? Because a little birdie,
An example.
Dr. Guba, well, a little birdie told me literally this morning. She's like, "You got to ask."
She's a troublemaker.
She is a troublemaker, but she told me this is real life stuff. So she said that there was a lady who came in and no one could help her, but you were the only one that could help her. So I got to use that when someone tells me, that type of situation. I got to throw it at you. So don't say her name, but this situation where no one could help her and you could help her.
I see a lot of those.
See a lot of those. All right, give me one. Give me one.
Okay, let's see.
Give me one was like a really difficult case. She came in or he came in and no one could help her and boom and like this is what you did and this is how you fixed
I know
it.
the one that Vera's talking about. I mean, to me, it's not successful yet because there's still a lot of issues that she has. She's way better than she was, but okay. So,
But she's way better than she was.
yeah,
Okay.
but she's still not normal, and she still has relapses that are related to gut permeability. So,
Okay, so
until that gets resolved, and I haven't been able to solve that, but she sees a lot of other doctors for that as well.
she's not eating well
No, she tries to eat well. I mean, she has previous damage.
from not eating well.
I'm not sure where it came from. Could
Okay.
be autoimmune.
Gotcha.
I haven't even gotten that far with her.
We're talking
I've
like-
done neuro rehab with her.
Right.
I have not done the functional medicine aspect.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of other functional medicine doctors have worked with her, so she's not there yet.
So, gotcha.
So you
I hear
want an
you.
example? There's a patient. I mean, there's controversy over the HPV vaccine. I have a patient who, as a teenager, received the vaccine. After that, she started having a lot of autonomic disorders. She would pass out. She couldn't take bright lights, flashing lights.
Right after
loud
the vaccine?
noises. About 3 months after. She was passing out. She was dizzy a lot. And this was an athlete. And it destroyed her life. For
How
a
old was
period
she?
of time. I guess when she first, I met her when she was a freshman in college.
Okay.
Okay, so...
And she got the HPV. Are you still
No,
getting...
she got it in high school, but she started having these symptoms for a long time.
Okay.
So the parents had gone to all the doctors they could, and they even went out to Children's Hospital in Pennsylvania. When they came into me, they had what they called their book. It was a folder that was probably 3 inches tall. They had all the studies, all the reports, all the everything from everybody else.
Jeez.
And nobody wants to attribute it to the vaccine. And I'm still hesitant to do that, but there are cases, there are individual case studies that are cited throughout the world where they're seeing reactions to this. So I think there's a possibility, even though it may be very small percentages. So
Right.
they say, well, 99 point whatever percent don't get a problem, but the ones who do have really devastating effects. So when somebody who's a healthy athlete is now going to college, and now when you're going to college, the academic load is much more strenuous. The hours are worse. All the things that would contribute to causing breakdown in those systems. She started passing out regularly. I mean, she'd drive a car, and having just the movement of everything going by her would cause her to pass out. So she'd have to pull off the side of the road as she felt she was going to go down.
Oh, wow.
At going to parties, going to concerts, once the music started and the lights started flashing, she was passing out. She became a problem at school because they were worried about her passing out so much that, they said it wasn't fair to her roommates that they have to watch out for her all the time. And I think they were concerned about liability as well. And she was...
Wow, poor thing.
She's a computer programmer. She's a computer engineer.
Right.
And that's what she was going to school for. Now, when you're on the computer screen and you're having to focus all that time, that's a lot of mesencephalic activity that ramps up that fight-flight system and causes a lot of vascular changes. And it causes a lot of demand on the brain to run that fast. And also, as you start moving the screen, you start scrolling. When you're looking at code and there's all these lines going right past you, that's like movement going by. And you have to be able to have your eyes fixate on the target and go regularly and stay steady. Otherwise, it's going by like crazy. You get anxiety responses. The fight-flight system kicks in. You can have too much vasoconstriction, and you pass out.
And that's what was happening with her.
Yeah.
Poor
Or you
girl.
get too much vasodilation because the system doesn't work well, and the blood pools in your feet, and you pass out.
Well, back to this is not about vaccines, but this is one thing I'll always say. It's not a one size fits all. I mean that's a fact. It's like it's just nothing is a one size fits all. If you get a flu vaccine, it may work for some people. It may not.
Yes.
I am allergic to penicillin. I have no idea why I'm allergic to penicillin, but I am. If you give it to me, very bad things happen.
Yes.
It may save your life.
Yeah.
It will
has.
it could, right, might kill me.
Mm-hmm.
So with the vaccine, in this particular case, I'm not saying, who knows, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you give it to 100 people, it may work for most, but it may not work for others. It's just not a one size fits all thing. So I'm just big onto that. So
Yeah. I don't even speculate about that.
yeah.
Nope.
So then,
When I see research, then I'll say, okay, that's the way.
right. So how have you helped her? Like with what types of exercises? What specifically?
She's normal now.
She's normal.
Yeah, she lives on her own in Northern Virginia. She's a computer engineer, and that's what her occupation is. She has had no problems probably since she graduated. I actually had to talk to the school to let her back in after we rehabbed her, but she did have to take most of her freshman year off and then go back. I guess she took off probably about October of her freshman year.
That's
because
great.
She was having so many problems, and now, she went back after for the next fall. But they wanted to make sure that she was okay and she wouldn't be a problem. And it's like, she was fine, though. Yeah, but so exercise-wise, so I did a lot of eye movement
Talk
therapy
about
with it.
unsympathetic. My gosh.
No, well, you know.
Make sure she wasn't a problem.
Well, that's really
Poor
where
thing's
they're
pet.
at.
It's like, I understand the liability issues and
Yeah.
all that, but the poor thing was having a hard time. And,
They thought it was related to stress.
well, they don't know what they're talking about.
But, this was just a college trying to cover themselves. So.
Yeah, no, I
And it's a
understand.
great university, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So, what exercises, what specifically did she have to do that helped her out? Because there are going to be people, here's the thing. This show is about educating, and there's going to be listeners and people watching that are going to say, I'm having these issues.
Right.
And then I want them to be able to go to people like you. If they're in New Jersey, they can go to you, Dr. Parks. If they're somewhere else, they can find a functional neurologist somewhere else.
Right.
So that they can get this help.
Right.
That's the genesis of this podcast. And then we're going to inspire them to do that. So what exercises did she go through? Like what protocols? What did she have to do?
Mostly what we did was work with eye movement therapy, put her on balance pads, have her do eye exercises, use stimulation on certain areas of her musculature to try to get feedback there. But we really focused on balance issues and eye movement therapy and correcting any aberrant eye movements.
So how does the eye therapy work? Are you taking like your
Well, as nothing's one size fits all. I mean, you're
with her?
with her. Well, it's hard to. I don't even remember exactly what was aberrant in her eye movements. I mean, there's so many different things. You're looking at how they pursue, whether they pursue smoothly in a horizontal plane, if they go side to side smoothly when they're following a target. Do they go smoothly going up and down? When you have to do fast eye movements, do they hit the target every time, or are they coming up short? Are they going too far and having to come back? Do they fatigue and get really slow? Is it slow to generate from one side the impulse to go to the other, or just the other way, or both ways? Is it slow going up and down? Does it have an increased latency going up and down? That all indicates different parts of the brain that you have to rehabilitate, and you'll do that with the things that they can't do.
Gotcha.
Can they follow targets? Can they have repeated targets going by and have their eye movements move slowly with the target and snap back to the next one and the next one and the next one, and do that successfully over time without it fatiguing? Can they turn in a chair, keeping their eyes on the target, and not have those eyes come off the target?
Right.
Because that indicates damage to a certain part of the cerebellum, and it's supposed to dampen that impulse.
So you'll look and you'll see these exercises, and depends on how they do. And then you strengthen the eyes, basically.
You strengthen the cerebellum behind
The cerebellum.
movements, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Through eye movements.
Just depends what is aberrant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like nose drawing. You know what nose drawing is?
No.
You got to look into the Bates method. It's similar. It's very similar stuff. Like looking at the tip of the pencil like that. That
It's
type
just
stuff.
pursuits.
Pursuits.
Those are pursuits.
I have pursuits. Okay, and you know what? I'm gonna strengthen your core. I'm gonna put you to task, but I'll do it with you. You ready for this? You did. I bet you didn't expect this morning when you came in on
I don't
this
know what to
podcast.
expect.
So, core is important, and balance is important for concussions, brain
Right.
problems, right?
Yep.
So, are you ready for a plank?
Go ahead.
No, you.
I'm going to do a plank.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Why is that? I've had brain injuries.
We're gonna strengthen the core.
Okay, whatever.
No,
I don't care.
I'll do one with you.
Whatever. You want me to do a plank?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. You can do a plank,
With
and
or
then
without the headphones? What are you going to do? You're going to do tricks behind me while I'm doing a plank?
no.
Okay.
So how long do you think you could do a plank for?
I don't know.
We have a record here. Is it Reggie who still has that record? It's
Excuse me, yeah, just over 3 minutes.
I
That's,
think Reggie
Flimlin, yes.
Reggie Flimlin from Juice Basin has got 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Can you beat that? Positive thinking. I think you can. I think you can.
This is silly. Okay, so when I'm treating patients, I tell them not to hold planks like that.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me why.
Because that became a thing. Because everything in this country becomes a thing when it comes to exercise.
Is that a bad exercise in your mind?
No, it's a very good exercise. But people were trying to see how long they could hold planks for. And
Okay.
people who were holding excessively long, people like up to 30 minutes, they were getting damage to their chest because of the musculature attaching at the sternocostal junctions was pulling so much there that they were getting inflammatory problems with their ribs.
They were
so
overdoing
it. Hurt to breathe.
They were overdoing it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you're going to max like that.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah,
Well,
I
that's what
believe
you're talking about when you're holding as long as you can. So it's like, really?
Yeah.
I tell people, I start out, so many people are unsuccessful at planks when they first start rehab because often they're told to hold it for a minute. Well, if a patient can only hold that plank for 3 seconds and they're trying to hold it for a minute and they're shaking the whole time,
Yeah.
they're going to be in pain when they're done. And then they go, I can't plank. And they won't do it again.
I thought no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain.
No
This
pain,
is old
no
school.
gain
I grew up in the 70s and 80s. No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain has caused so many injuries.
But that's
unnecessarily.
you know what? That's bull. That's bull.
It's total
Pain. Yeah, that I don't
Pain
believe.
is an indication of tissue damage.
Pain means your body is telling you stop.
Pain means you've already gone past the stop point.
I
okay?
I agree with you.
Yes.
I do agree with you.
So I start patients out 3 to 5 seconds holding their planks, but 10 reps. And then we work them up. And then when they can hold it for a minute successfully, you hold it for a minute, but you do it several times a day.
I knew there was something about this plank thing.
But it's great. Planking is tremendous exercise, as is bridging. It's very good core exercise. It's tremendous feedback for the spinal cerebellum, and you need it to rehab it.
Just don't go too
But you
far.
don't need to spend as long as possible.
So
doing it.
3 to 5 seconds, and then they take a little bit of a break.
Well, like they 3 to 5 seconds, go back down just like you're doing a push-up. You go back down, you come back up, hold it for 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Then you go back down. And if that's too easy, you go up to 5. If that's too easy, you go to 10.
Working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
Working smarter, not harder. I do agree with
Staying
you.
within the range of what you're capable of, pushing it to the end of that range, but not going beyond it, and letting it recover. Otherwise, you're just doing tissue damage. You're trying to increase endurance of the spinal cerebellum and the spinal musculature. If you continue to exceed the metabolic capacity of those muscles, you're going to continue to injure them, and this is what the patient's there for. So,
And just to go to show, just to that point, I have a bad back,
okay,
and I have sciatica.
okay,
It comes and goes, and I do my best with the Bates method and core movements, and I do my best with meditation and breathing and good nutrition to manage my back. But it comes and goes.
Okay.
When I'm more stressed out, it's pretty much without fail it comes.
Okay.
And it goes right down my leg, and it's a son of a bitch, as you probably know. But I actually have damage. So if you actually were to take an MRI, you will see damage.
To what?
I'm sorry?
To what?
It's been so long that I went. I believe it's like the L. What are the bottom vertebrae? The L.
L5, S1, L4, L5.
I think it's those two.
Do you have disc herniation?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
And
but not compression of nerve.
No, there was some compression of nerve.
There
too.
is, okay.
Yeah, and that was 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I haven't gotten an MRI since,
All right.
and I don't want to, because I'm going.
Well, as long as you're not losing function.
No, I mean I try to manage it myself with meditation and food and smart. But my point is I got to that point because I overdid it.
Mm-hmm.
I did an Ironman. I started out I did small ones, and then I did a half Ironman, and then I did a full Ironman, and I have that personality where I'm an extremist a little bit. So I'm working on dialing it down a notch.
Mm-hmm.
But this is important to know because it's moderation. So good. So that's another 3 to 5 seconds. Hold it. Take a break.
That's the start with an acute patient, yeah. But you don't start them with that. There's a bunch of exercises that I go through before we get to planking in the first place.
Okay.
I like to strengthen the musculature around it and then start working core.
So you're not getting out of this, by the way.
Okay.
I'm still gonna make you do the plank.
Okay.
But I don't want you to hurt your ribs.
I won't hurt my ribs. Don't worry.
I don't want you to hurt your ribs. So can we get you to do a 30-second plank?
Sure.
That's not gonna take it past the point of hurting
No.
you.
No.
Don't hurt your ribs.
I won't hurt anything.
Okay, we have liability in the studio.
I won't hurt
Okay,
anything.
don't-
Don't, 30-second plank. No.
All right, you got it. And I'll do one too.
Okay.
Or maybe I could do some push-ups.
I don't care.
But it's the core stuff.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so
Push-ups
work on
are
the
core.
Push-ups are core.
Yeah.
You want to do those?
No. No. No.
I'm getting a lot of no's here. Come on, Dr. Parks.
I have some tendonitis in my shoulder right now, so I'm not doing that.
Okay, you were a soccer player. You should be like so spry, right? Didn't you play soccer for years?
Until I was 45.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were 35.
35 when I started again.
So are you still playing soccer or are you not playing soccer?
No, I'm 60, 61.
You can still play.
No.
No.
I've had
There's another no.
I've had multiple head injuries. I'm not going back on the field.
Oh, gotcha. From heading the ball?
Yes, and from getting hit in the head while hitting the ball.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so no.
Couldn't you go
With
back
what
out?
I know about neurodegeneration, no.
Really?
No, absolutely not. I'm not going to have any more head injuries.
Yeah.
No.
How many did you have?
Two really good ones, and then, well, really good ones. But when I was playing over 40, I got hit in the side of the head with a ball really hard, and it caused problems.
Oh,
It caused
really?
tracking problems, ball up in the air. It would look like it would jump as it was coming
Oh,
down.
I'm sorry to hear that. So someone kicked the ball and it hit you in the side head?
Yeah, a guy was shielding me, so I couldn't see where it was coming from. I was a center back, and so I headed the ball a lot. And somebody drilled the ball apparently right at us, and I couldn't see it. And I was trying to look around him to see where it was coming from. And just as it got there, and I was turning to the side, he moved his head out of the way, and it hit me really hard. And so it really rang my bell, and I had pain tingling down my arm. It was like, okay.
Yeah, so now I totally get it.
But
So you don't even want to chance it.
No,
by going
when I
out.
last played, I had a headache after every game.
Okay, so that's
I was
not worth
done.
it.
No, I love the game.
When are they allowed to head the ball these days? Because isn't there like females?
Over 13, I think it is now. They will not teach it even in the national team programs or any of these programs until they're over 13.
Why can't they just take that out of the game? If it's causing this many problems, I mean, I know that's part of soccer,
Okay,
but
my feeling is that in 50 years' time, there will be no heading in soccer, just
Yeah.
because the research will be so overwhelming that you can't keep subjecting people to head injuries and damage like that.
I mean, it does make sense. I mean, a ball keeps bonking you on the head.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like common sense that eventually it's going to rattle your brain,
And
right?
if you're heading the ball a lot, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for other people to head you in the head. Because you see players who have no chance of getting the ball, and as you win the ball, somebody's going to come and head you in the head because they can't get to it.
They head you in the head because they
yeah.
can't get it,
They can't get there.
which is obviously illegal.
Yeah, but nothing gets called and stuff like that. You get elbowed in the head, you get headed in the head all the time.
Really?
And sometimes it's just head-to-head contact because you're both going for the same ball at the same time, and as you both go there and nobody lets up, you head each other in the head.
You head each other in the head.
And that's never good. And the problem is, I mean, in soccer at a higher level, they've instituted protocols that really are not held that strictly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, in Europe, so if you get a head injury and your head's cut open, that's more significant because you can't go back on the field with blood. So they pull you off to the sideline, and now they're not going to make a substitution because if they do that, you can't go back in the game. So if you're an important player, you don't come off and then go get substituted back on. You come off to the sideline. They have a staple gun on the sideline now. They staple your head back together. They put a bandage around it. They take your shirt off, put a clean shirt on. And
Yeah.
somebody's supposed to assess you for a concussion. And, yeah, the doctor looks at you and goes, okay, go back. And you see examples of that in the World Cup. Not this most recent one, but the one before that, a German player got whacked in the head. He came back on the field because it's always, I'm okay, and he keeled over trying to make a run.
But they let him back in?
Oh, they came right back.
See,
on.
that's unacceptable. I mean, the players always, and I played sports, basketball, baseball, and football, and you're always going to want to go. If you're a competitor, you always want to go back in, but it's the doctor and the sideline. They can't let him go back in the game. That's just unacceptable, period.
Well, totally, but we're talking about European soccer, and winning is
Yeah.
everything.
But you got to change that. I mean, that's
Well,
just,
you
know,
do.
there's going to be a lot of people that are, you're 60 years old and you don't even want to play a sport. Because when I brought up soccer, you had a smile on your face like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah.
So you clearly love soccer.
I'd still go kick around.
Oh, so you'll play around.
When it doesn't matter.
Right.
When you're not to put my head on the ball.
Right. But you actually won't go back into a game and play pickup game because you don't want to get hit in the head, which means, kids these days should probably have to avoid that so that when they're 60, they can play. So they don't have to have that kind of issue.
But I can tell you as a player, until I stop playing, if a ball were in the air, I'm putting my head on it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But if they change the rules and say
Then
you
nobody has to.
can't do it, and that's the way it is, you won't get to that point.
rules change very slowly in
Yeah,
that
they
sport.
do. They do.
It's not about player safety. It's about the purity of the game.
Right. Well, for some people.
Well, for everybody in charge, it is.
Slowly but surely they can change.
That's why I say it'll take 50 years because it'll be overwhelming and they won't be able to do it. But
You're probably right about that.
yeah,
But be smart instead of. But yeah, the whole pain, no gain, that's nonsense. Be smart about it.
yeah.
All right, so let's plank. I gotcha. You're not going to beat the record. You're not going to beat Reggie's record, but you know what? It's okay. I want your ribs
So where am I
intact.
going?
Right here's good.
Okay. Do I take these off?
No, you can keep them on. Can you keep them on?
Sure, you can take them off. Take them off.
Take them off. Dr. Kevin Parks, and you're in Wall, right?
Yes.
You're in Wall, New Jersey,
On 138.
on Route 138. Functional Neurology.
I hate those labels too.
Functional Neurology?
I hate the labels.
What would you call yourself? A chiropractic
I'm
neurologist?
a doctor.
A doctor.
I'm just trying to be better. That's all.
You're a doctor, but you're doing good work.
No, that's what I try.
All right.
But the labels are funny because
Yeah, I hear you.
I was in a program, actually it was functional neurology seminars, and the one of the two lead instructors is on advisory staff at Harvard Med and at Mass General, and he was saying, I don't know what we want to call this. I don't want to be called a specialist in anything. I want to be called a specialist in nothing. I just want to be a doctor. I want to be the best doctor I can be.
How about I say this?
That's the approach I take.
Dr. Kevin Parks is helping people.
That's cool.
He is helping people who have concussions, back problems, neck problems, and he's helping people that other doctors aren't able to do. So that's his area where he specializes in. As a doctor, he's truly doing good work. Is that a better way of
Okay, thank
approaching
you.
it?
Yeah,
I think
but
that is.
I am called a functional neurologist, yes.
Yeah.
But
But that's good.
they're very good medical neurologists who deal with the disease processes that I certainly can't.
Sure. Well, we all have our, things that we do well and that we don't do well.
So you want me to plank?
I do.
All right. Do I fit? I fit. Okay.
I like it. We got the timer. He is planking. That's a good plank. I could tell you were a soccer player. What do you think, Ming?
He's no problem. I think he could have beat the record, but we don't want him to overdo it, so it's not good.
I think he could have beat the record too. So I'm going to tell you when 30 seconds are up, or should I trick you?
I don't care.
No.
I'm at 30 now. I know that.
You are. You're at You're at about 45. You want to be done?
I'll do a minute.
Always going to do a minute. You see that? Positive thinking. You got about. All right. He's going to do a minute. I realized that a lot of females that I have on the show, I have them doing planks and I have them doing push-ups and all sorts of things. And I realized I'm like, that doesn't look good if I don't have the men on the show doing the same thing. I'm like, so that's when I started doing push-ups. All right, you're at a minute, doctor. Good job. And I realized that. I'm like, I don't want to come off like a chauvinist pig. Because I started to realize that. I mean, I have more female guests than I do male guests.
Okay.
For some reason. So then I started. I'm like, you know what, John? This is not going to look good. I've got to get the doctors on, the men on, and they've got to get put to work. So now I get down and I do push-ups and I plank and I do all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay.
You can't just say, hey, you do it, and I'm not doing
Right.
it.
No, so this
You gotta walk the walk, right?
I do an iron strength workout twice a week. So.
Oh, you gotta tell me about this. What?
Iron strength workout?
Yeah.
It's a workout program by Dr. Jordan Metzel from Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. He was a soccer player who blew out his ACL and then became a triathlete. And so he treats a lot of sports medicine cases up at HHS. And I've sent patients up to him in the past. So he has a book out, and he developed a protocol called the Iron Strength Workout. And there's a link to it from Runner's World. And the Iron Strength Workout is the core workout for runners.
Gotcha.
So it's actually really, there's a lot of plyometrics in it.
How long is the workout?
About 45 minutes to 50 minutes,
How often do you do it?
twice a week.
Twice a week.
You need to do it once or twice a week.
Do you run?
No, I don't. I've had back and knee issues, so no.
Right.
So I Nordic track.
Nordic track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm dialing it down a bit as well. I do run. I love running, but I'm trying to change it up. Strength training, yoga, run, basketball, and then today I'm going to do the elliptical just to kind of give my body a
Right.
break.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be smarter,
Right.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Pain is not good.
Pain is damage.
Pain is damage. Pain is your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you stay up because you told me on the phone that you stay up to date on functional neurology.
Absolutely.
So right now, where are you going for your research, and what kind of research is out there? What's the latest and greatest on functional neurology that's getting you jazzed up? Like, what do you read and
The
research?
latest and greatest is scary.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
The latest and greatest incorporates a lot
Scary
of...
good?
No, scary bad.
All right, well,
a lot of autoimmunity. The functional neurology, the way it had always been taught, was very much neurorehab. And we didn't really focus much on neurochemistry, chemistry of the brain. But that was really missing things. Because now we know that the environment that the brain works in, we always did, I guess, but it wasn't utilized in our therapy. That the approach had always been that if you fix the brain, it'll fix everything else. But actually, sometimes you can't fix the brain if metabolically the patient is unstable, because you can't make neurons fire that have infections that aren't working well, that have glucose issues that aren't working well, that have autoimmunity that are damaging them and gobbling them up. So you can't rehabilitate a system if it has all these other problems that are in the way, chronic viruses that are there.
Right.
Unless you address those metabolic issues, you're not going to help that patient. Or you'll help that patient for a time period, and then they'll relapse, and you won't know why. So really, there's been a group that have been really focusing more on those metabolic issues and looking at, which is a relationship to functional medicine.
right.
So we look at dysglycemia, at thyroid conditions, at chronic viruses, Lyme disease,
Right.
all those factors, all those things that play a role, and just in general nutrition. Because if you're lacking certain nutrients,
Yeah.
you're going to have an pro-inflammatory environment in the system that is going to prevent you from being able to rehabilitate it. Because we were talking about earlier, inflammation in the brain is going to uncouple the mitochondria. You're not going to have the energy to run the cells. And if you're trying to rehabilitate a cell that has no energy, well, it's just going to crash. You're
Right.
not going to get anywhere. You can make the patient worse.
Right.
So now we're looking at,
Yeah.
okay, what's happening with guts? You know, you hear about the gut-brain connection all the time. It's
Yes.
for real. I mean,
It's for real, yeah.
This is research that's going on in the medical community, even though it's not necessarily practiced as much, because
Right.
it's so, it's new information for so many of us. So we know that inflammation in the gut and permeability in the gut is the trigger that kicks off autoimmune disorders that patients may be genetically predisposed to,
Right.
but not being expressed until they had that inflammatory cascade.
Yeah.
So once they have that, now you have the potential of autoimmune disorders.
I agree. Do you work with a functional doctor in
I did, but she moved.
She did?
Yeah, she left the area completely. So that's really why I've pushed myself really hard in that direction, because as a result of being part of the Carrick Institute for so long, we ignored the neurochemistry, we ignored
Yeah.
the functional medicine aspect, and I needed to work with somebody else to do that. So now a lot of my focus on my classes and my reading are on this, on the neurochemistry, on the gut metabolism.
Yeah. What about a health coach?
They're being used more and more. I don't have a health coach in my practice, but I understand the usefulness, because people need to have somebody help them eat right, understand what's going on when they're eating, understand their lives, understand lifestyle and how stress involves things.
So let me tell you a little background. So I've always been into health and wellness. Played basketball, baseball, football. I sold high blood pressure medication in Florida. My dad got sick with a rare form of brain cancer. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's almost exactly at the same time. I was commuting back and forth from Florida. Ironically, I was selling high blood pressure medication, which was just ironic because I had 131 doctors, and what I saw there was a joke. It was a joke. In my opinion, it was a joke. It was a quick fix. It was patients coming in to get a quick pill. It was going to fix everything. The doctors were good doctors, and it's not their fault, but they just, they weren't listening to me on how to prescribe high blood pressure medication. They were taking my samples, and they were giving the samples out, and the underlying root cause was not being addressed. So I bring up health coach to you for this reason, and you can certainly do what you want. But I also went to school to become a certified holistic health coach. I didn't sign up to do that. I wanted more information because I love research and I love the information, and it jazzes me up and I think it's cool. But halfway through, it was Integrative Institute of Nutrition. I realized they're teaching to become a health coach, and it opened my eyes as to how valuable a health coach is. And I'm not pushing this, I'm just my observations. They really spend the time with the patient to start to understand, because I think unless you spend time with each individual and figure out exactly what's going on with them, you're not really going to be able to address the problem accurately because you don't really know what you're dealing with. So Jane Smith comes in and she's, her husband's beating her. Like, that's a problem. And then she's doing that. I'm just making something up.
But that's a huge problem.
Right. But I'm saying, like, so in her particular case, that's happening. So now she's not sleeping. So we need to sleep, but she's not sleeping. And she's eating very poorly because she's not sleeping, because she's getting beat. So, and maybe she's over-exercising. So the whole thing is just a mess. Well, let's just take another scenario. Let's say someone's 50 pounds overweight. They've tried every diet, they've exercised, they don't know what's going on. They can't lose the weight. Just eat leafy greens. What's the problem? No big deal. Something's happening. We don't know, but unless you spend the time to talk to her or him, you won't know. They're working, 14-hour days. They hate their job. They can't stand it, and they're stressed out beyond belief. Root cause, their job. Easier said than done, but the stress is causing their 50 pounds. Now you know. So if you bring in a health coach, and some doctors do this, and again, I'm not saying to do it. I saw how valuable it was. So then because every story is a different story. It's not like, hey, you know what? You're 50 pounds overweight. This is what you got to do. To 10 different people. It's each individual different story. And then you know what you're dealing with. And then you can really drill down and say, okay, I won't have an issue with, maybe potentially I can put a hamper on autoimmunity. And I know it's a huge problem, but I know if you have like good kimchi, good probiotics in your diet, and you're eating healthy, and if I can get you to, change jobs and do something that you really love, and we work that stuff out, that's going to get you healthier. And someone that, so if I'm sitting across from you and I'm dealing with someone and they know that I care, the bedside manner's there, it's going to make them want to make those changes. And then when they come to you, you can really do your job.
Part of my job is getting to know the patients and know what I'm dealing with.
Right, but do you have the time? How much time do you spend with the patients?
I make the time.
I like that.
It varies. Some patients take longer than others. Some patients don't need it, don't want it. Some patients need it.
Right.
So my appointment times vary. It could be a half hour with a patient continuously. My exams are an hour and a half. The initial encounter.
Is it an hour and a half?
Yeah,
that's
between
awesome.
The history and the exam. My time with the patient varies, like I said.
Right.
Some patients I could be in and out in 7 minutes. Some patients I'm there for 15. Some patients I'm there for a half hour. Some patients are 45 minutes.
Depends on the patient.
Depends on the patient. That's why it's difficult for us to schedule.
That's great that you spend that time. That's awesome. It's very important.
It depends, the complex cases, if you don't, they're not going to get well. You have to find out,
Right.
as you said, you have to find out what's going on in their lives, everything about them.
Oh, so you do? So you really delve into the...
Well, yeah. I give away secrets, I to patients. I work to get somebody comfortable with me. I try not to come across as a stuffy doctor who's just there going, okay, what's wrong? But I really talk to the patient. I try to find ways to get them to open up, to be comfortable with me, so they will open up and speak to me and say things that they wouldn't necessarily say to other doctors, because it's a cold. Instead of having a cold encounter,
Right.
I don't make it I don't want a wall between us. I want to find out what they're interested in, what they're doing, and what makes them tick, and what makes them comfortable. Some people aren't comfortable with talking a lot. So I just
Right.
let them express themselves as they can. Some people want to get it out, and people are, and they don't want a doctor who's in a hurry and has always got his hand on the doorknob. So you sit
Right.
there and you listen and you let them talk and you try to guide them, but you kind of need to spend the time because you have to see where they're coming from.
Right.
So
So I realized, like, even before I came in here, I'm like, you know what? If I get into an encounter where, like, I need to, like, loosen up Dr. Parks, I'll talk soccer. So I did, like,
That's what you said in the emails. Like, you want to talk soccer, it'll take all day.
But that's good. I'm happy to hear that you're spending that time. So you're, in a way, health coaching. I mean, you're not a health
I guess
coach.
I don't think of it that way.
Well,
But I just think, like I said, I'm just trying to be a doctor.
Right. But there's more to it than just being a doctor. You're getting to know your patients, which most patients like, and you're understanding their lifestyle.
Right. Well, that's the way I started out. When I was an intern, that's my approach. That's just, I think, my personality.
Right. That's great.
Obviously, I'm not too formal. I mean, this is what I'm wearing to the office.
I like that. What do you have, a purple?
Scrub top.
We got to see this now. Dr. Parks is wearing. Come on, we're having fun.
Okay.
You're not a stuffy doctor. We know that.
No.
We have.
And I wear scrub pants.
That is bright. You have purple, blue, green. What would you
It's
describe?
an island scene.
That is an island scene.
And I don't go to the islands. I go north all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
I like it. That's a nice looking shirt.
And I wear scrub pants and I wear my sambas in the office.
You know what? You know what? That works for you, right?
My copa's now with the orange stripes.
It's comfortable.
I have to be comfortable. I do. My job is very physical, even though there's a lot of mental aspects to it. I do the work myself. I'm physically working with the patients.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, I like what you're doing. I like your passion, and I'm glad that Vera hooked us up together. That little troublemaker.
she said she may have mentioned my name. It's like
she may have mentioned your name like 5,000 times. No, Vera is not a troublemaker. Troublemaker in a good way. She's great.
She's great. No,
I'm going to
she's
get
a great
her
lady.
on a podcast at Ming's show. But with that, listen, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you. I've learned a lot. I didn't know much about functional neurology, pretty much nothing. Now I do. Now my listeners do. And the whole idea is to, get them, they're educated now. They will be. And to get them to find a functional neurologist. If you're in New Jersey, you're located in Wall. What's Route
138.
In Wall, New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay. And go see Dr. Kevin Parks. If you're in Minnesota, go find a functional neurologist, a good one. I'm sure there's
lists. Yep.
There's lists.
There are.
Where can people find a good list?
acnb.org.
Okay.
There's a doctor locator. That's the board that certifies chiropractic neurology.
Okay. So go find a functional neurologist if you're having these issues. And with that, that is a wrap. And thank you again, Dr. Parks. We'll catch up soon. Adios, amigos.
Thanks, John.